Thanks for joining me today and checking out this Capricorn version of the Cosmic Pilates routines. After a year like 2020, where things have been a little bit crazy, I'm really excited that you can do this for yourself, that you can harness the energy of each sun sign to your benefit. We all have a little bit of everything in our chart, so it's beneficial to us when we're in the particular season to really harness the energy of that sign. Each astrological sign relates to a certain body part and or system. Capricorn happens to rule the knees. We need our knees to be strong to be able to carry us forward through life and to climb those mountains, which Capricorn is all about, climbing. We are going to cover all the signature moves that I've chosen for the sign. Each sign has 3 moves: a symbol move, a power move, and a centering move. Without further ado, I am excited to do the Capricorn moves with you. For the Mermaid, we'll start by lengthening through the hips, and then we're going to do a little hip rotation forward and back as we inhale and exhale to release that hip so that we can try to plant both sits bones firmly on the ground to start the move. From there, we'll lift up, lengthen through the arms, inhale and exhale as we stretch up and over, inhale at the bottom, exhale to counter stretch. This is our level 1 Mermaid variation. We'll just do a couple on each side. On this last one, we're going to go ahead and rotate around, stretching through the QL and the side back area, and then pressing our palms into the floor, lengthening up the back of the neck into our swan stretch to further open the psoas. Moving over and counter stretching to finish. And again, we can rotate around and do our QL stretch. Of course, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, rotating our hips forward and back to begin, trying to open up that hip to start the move, in order that we can try to get our sits bones down on the ground to begin the movement process. And then we'll lengthen up, open our arms out, inhale, exhale, stretch up and over, inhale at the bottom, and exhale to counter stretch. And inhale and exhale, inhale and exhale. This time we're going to add our rotation, bringing that arm around, pulling into sort of a long rotated child's pose type move, and then pushing up to our swan, lengthening up the back of the neck, breathing into the stretch, never holding our breath when we're in a stretch, but rather breathing into it and trying to exhale the tension away. For our level 2 Mermaid, we come to our knees, leaning over onto one arm as we extend the opposite leg and exhaling into the stretch. Inhale at the bottom, of course, and then exhale to come back up through the middle. Really lengthening through our spine the whole time, lengthening that arm and foot away from each other, pushing the floor away from us as we stretch that side body toward the ceiling. Trying to keep a strong arm, lengthening up through the crown of the head, and then lengthening the hand and foot away from each other. Inhale at the bottom, exhale to come up. Use that exhale to power yourself up, and inhale and exhale, coming back to center. And I always like to come down and finish in a child's pose. Our level 3 Mermaid begins in a similar position to the first, except it involves a side plank. I'm going to start by doing 2 on my forearm. And we inhale around, place the forearm on the ground, extend the legs out, Egyptian-style feet, top foot in front of the bottom foot in a flexed position. And then for the more advanced variation yet, if your wrists and your shoulders can handle it, you're going to come up to a full side plank, pressing the floor away from you, lifting the hips, and then we fold the knees in and we counter stretch. And extend the legs, press up to your side plank, coming to the sides of the feet as we push up, and then we counter stretch. And of course, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Starting with our forearm plank, we come down onto our forearm, extend the legs out, top foot in front of the bottom foot, flexed foot position. Exhale to counter stretch. Inhale around, place the palm and forearm down. Exhale, press up, stretch up and over, coming around, breathing through it as you counter stretch. And then coming up to our full side plank, palm down on the ground, push the hips up, stretch up and over, coming in, counter stretching, breathing through it. Inhale the arm around. Exhale, push up, lift, stretch, reach that arm up and over, coming down onto our hips and doing a counter stretch. Our power move is the mountain climber. We're going to start in a all fours position, extending one leg back and finding your plank. Make sure your hips don't dip down. You want to have a nice strong press down through the arms. Palms are splayed. You have nice spread fingers as you do this, and you pull one knee at a time in, switching sides, keeping that nice strong midsection. Add a little flourish if you'd like by adding a little twist, turning internally and then externally. And then we're going to actually make sure your hips are nice and strong. We're actually going to reverse the process, twist out and then across, come back to center and reach that leg long again, across, back to center and back to your toes. And we can always do a fast version, almost like we're running in place. This really helps enliven the body and get our heart rate up. End in a child's pose, breathing into the back and sides of the rib cage and exhaling your tension away. Our centering move are single leg circles, and I'm going to do 3 variations with you. Starting with the modified version, bent knee, foot firmly planted on the floor, in line with the sits bone. I always like to start with a little stretch, bending my knee in and out, and then doing a few ankle circles. From there, you extend the leg long toward the ceiling, and keeping the hips nice and still, pressing into the backs of the upper arms to help stabilize. You're going to draw 5 circles on the ceiling in one direction, inhaling and exhaling as you go, and of course switching directions after 5. And then we're going to go ahead and put that foot on the ground in line with our sits bone. Do the same thing on the other side, starting with a little stretch to release the hamstrings a little bit, and then adding the ankle circles at the top. That helps actually release our hips and hamstrings. That's the opposite end of the chain. From there, letting go of the back of the leg and doing your single leg circles as if you're drawing a circle, tracing the same circle over and over again, ideally on the ceiling. And of course, switching directions after 5. And bringing the leg down to finish. For our classical mat version, we extend the leg long, flex into the back of that stabilizing heel. So you're really pressing down through that extended heel, as well as pressing back into the backs of the arms and shoulder blades. So you have these 3 points, as well as the back of the head as well, of contact. Hips stay nice and steady through the process. And once again, you trace the circles on the ceiling, switching directions after 5. I always like to do a little hamstring stretch at the end. Careful not to get any tension in the neck and shoulders there. And then same thing, other side. Beginning with a hamstring stretch, particularly if you haven't done the modified version first. And then we're going to plant into the opposite leg as we circle for 5. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, exhale, hips stay nice and still, shoulders stay nice and still and open, breathing through the movement. And we will elongate down through that leg. Make sure your hips are nice and square. For our more advanced version, we're actually going to do a twist to start. We're going to drop that knee across the body, trying to keep that shoulder anchored. Breathing into the stretch. You're stretching your psoas and your QL here. And then we come up, extend the leg up. And we do a twist with the circle, swinging that leg across and lifting the hip. And then exhaling to circle out and around with control. Trying not to let that opposite hip pop off the floor as you come out and around. And we inhale across, exhale, circle out and around, and then we reverse after 5. Inhale, lift that hip, swing across, exhale, circle up and over. Now my stabilizing leg in this position, I actually like to have the stabilizing leg turned out and pressing into the side back of the heel in a soft point. And then I end with a little hip flexor release. Once again, adding our ankle circles to release the opposite end of the chain, the hip. Here we go with the other side, dropping that knee across, keeping the shoulder anchored. You can look in the direction of that shoulder to help add a little weight over there. Breathing into it for a good 2, 3, maybe 4 breaths. Unwinding, extending the leg, maybe doing a little hamstring stretch here if your hamstring and calf feel tight. And then we inhale, lift that hip and swing the leg across. Exhale, circle out and around, trying not to let that opposite hip pop off the floor. Once again, we do 5 in each direction. And we reverse. Inhaling across the body, exhaling up and over the top with control. Breathing through it. And finishing with our hip flexor stretch. Ankle circles around to release the hip. And elongate the legs. Now check your hips and make sure they haven't gone wonky on the floor. And then we roll up to sit up.